Welcome, welcome. It is Monday, May 6th, 2024. Welcome to the Comical Opinions newsletter. Last week, I put out a video where I challenged our reading and viewing and listening audience to tell me what you think about the intersection of artificial intelligence and the creation of comics and its impact and its influence on the comic industry. Today, instead of me doing a bunch of talking about what I think, we're going to talk about what you thought. And I asked you to give me all your comments and all your feedback and just give me your general impressions about what is really going on and how you feel artificial intelligence is either a positive or a negative, or it's a wait and see or a to be determined or whatever you can think of. So today we're just going to go through your comments and hear your thoughts. And then, if I feel that there's something that I can react to, I will. But I think a lot of this for the viewing and the listening audience is going to be food for thought. When you're getting different perspectives, it gives you different ideas and different ways to look at things. And so we have to kind of take that all in and understand that artificial intelligence is a thing. It doesn't have a mind of its own. It doesn't have its own motivations and direction. It's what we collectively as a society choose to do with it. And so these thoughts, your thoughts, are going to help us determine what we choose to do with it because they express our fears, our concerns, and our hopes. And maybe that's worth listening to. So let's jump right in. The next set of comments I'm going to go through are from our Substack newsletter. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It's completely free. And then you can add your comments as people have done here and even participate in our polls and other things that we have going on. So first off, we start off with Jake Palermo, who's a longtime supporter of the newsletter and our site, which we much appreciate. And I think we've even reviewed something from Jake on our website when he crafted his own creator-owned comics. So that's good to know that Jake is happy to participate and speak up. This is from Jake Palermo. There's no denying that AI is a tool. Like any other tool, can be used for good or bad. Sometimes I use it to help me get out of the writer's block, which is great. I never copy the words, which is smart, partly because AI didn't understand the context, which is true, but also because I needed direction on what to write about when I have the elements. So translate what ChatGPT gives you and then make it your own, which is where most people will say that's how you responsibly use ChatGPT when it comes to writing. As for comics, one thing I would not mind as much as AI being used for variant covers, and that's probably fair. I know a lot of artists make money through it, but if cheapening the most regularly expensive part of making a comic can lead to interior art getting better pay, I'm all for it. If not, wouldn't mind having less variant covers. Now, variant covers and variant cover schemes and those processes that come from the publishers are a really big deal in the industry right now and probably a detriment to the industry right now. When publishers are creating a comic, whether it's an ongoing or a one shot or an anthology or a miniseries or maxi series, they have a budget. They have so much money that they can allocate for all the individuals that are contributing to the creation of that comic. Now, if a lot of money, maybe even too much money, is spent on creating a bunch of variant covers to kind of boost up those sales, that leaves less of that budget allocated for the internal page work and for the writers and everything else. So Jake's point, if I'm interpreting correctly, is that if we let AI do the variant covers, that gives us more money to spend on making the internal pages better because you can hire better artists or pay them better to do better work and what have you. That's basically shifting an imbalance to something more balanced and using AI to help facilitate that. So there's merit to that idea. I like that idea. Here we have Mark Zingrabe. It's important to note that AI is used in creation of your product. Many platforms require that you state that, like a disclaimer or some kind of label or warning. Also, the Copyright Office will not accept anything created by AI. That was a recent legal ruling. That is a true statement. If it's created by AI, you can't copyright it. Now, for some people, that may not be a big deal. That sort of depends on the situation. So be very aware of these restrictions if you're using AI to create your product. Okay, that's fair. Next, we have Ulysses, who is also a longtime supporter of the show, the channel, and the website. The AI discussion is virtually never actually had. It's mostly spoken around, but there are deeper questions to the existence that AI asks. And he also includes a link to an article that he recently wrote. In short, no, it's not just a tool because we don't know what AI is yet. That's fair. It is still developing, it's still evolving. Where AI is today is vastly different than what it was just 2 years ago. If you think about ChatGPT and Midjourney and the sound tools, video tools, some of the things that are coming out now, they were not even thought of or barely in existence a couple of years ago. That AI technology has come so far. And then so we have to now project where we'll be in 5 years and 10 years. It is a complete unknown as far as how far it will really go. So there's a lot to think about there. As for the question I queued up, yes, AI is a threat to comics, but only in the sense that comics are so fragile that a light breeze is a threat. Well, there's some potential truth to that. Marvel and DC are not in a great place right now, from a revenue standpoint, from a profit standpoint, from how they treat their creators, from the quality of the work they're doing, all these other things. So is AI a threat to them? Yes, but but AI is a threat in the sense that they're both very weak, and so it wouldn't take much for something to come in and truly disrupt how they do business. Now we have a comment from Team Ninja Shark. Right now, I'm 100% anti AI use in comic creation. I know as time wears on, you may mellow and accept and maybe even use it as a tool, but as a lifelong union guy from a union family, I don't want that tool to replace creatives. I want the creatives to have control of the tool and how it's used. All right, so this is very much a standpoint in the perspective of supporting creators from a job perspective and from a human work perspective. And there's a lot to consider there. That's not an easy question to ask or answer. Uh, AI can replace jobs. Is that a true statement? For some people, yes, especially in the creative fields, especially if you're a writer. I mean, if you're writing stuff, you give a chat GPT a prompt and it'll spit out a script. It can do that. So the difference then becomes creators who, say, writing as an example, who are entry level, low level, or mediocre. Yes, they will potentially very easily be replaced by AI. But what then happens is the writers who are much better than that, those who have something special, something unique, who can infuse their heart and soul into their writing and then bring that to life, AI is not going to be able to reproduce that, at least not yet that we can tell. So really, AI only replaces people, at least in that capacity, only replaces people who don't do a great job. And so you have to think, okay, well, if you don't, you have to start somewhere. So how do you go from entry level to mediocre, then to become great if AI is taking all your jobs? That's the question. And so we have to figure out, is there going to be a parallel economy where the big publishers and corporations use AI to get work on the cheap for the basic stuff, but anybody who wants to rise the ranks, maybe they have to build their own path. They have to write their own stuff and rely a lot more on, say, crowdfunding or open publishing, if you will. That's an interesting question. There's a lot of room for debate there, and I don't think there's any right or wrong answer or even a clear answer at this point. But my personal preference, going back to Team Ninja Shark, is that would be limited to creating backgrounds or background characters, and that's use is limited to the artist being hired to create the backgrounds and background characters. I definitely don't want AI to replace a talented artist, and I can't see myself ever supporting a fully AI project. That one is a hypothetical I brought up in the video from last week. Is what if DC or Marvel said, well, we'll use AI, but we'll only use AI on backgrounds? Backgrounds always get sacrificed when there's a rush. When the artists are crunched, they focus on the figures in the foreground. The background usually is like a blank slate or a color or just some basic texture. We see that all the time. So it would help to improve the product if you say, artists, keep doing what you're doing, but in the backgrounds, so that you don't have a blank background, use AI to fill it in, and here are pre-approved designs and templates. That could be one way to go, and that would be a compromise where the artist can't get to it anyway because there's just not enough time, and so the product is enhanced by providing AI to support the artist when they can't do some of the things that they want to do. So let's cut over to YouTube, where we had some comments there that I thought were interesting. From Jolly Green Comics, I understand AI art is here to stay and easily accessible. My hope is that the comic companies will take steps to make sure the art is authentic and not AI. That could be requiring pencils, inks, layers, etc. In other words, providing proof, which is part of what motivated the discussion from the last video, which is the sort of mentality from some of the publishers and even the editors and the curators to say, if you are AI, if you use AI art, you don't belong in this company, which is a form of gatekeeping, but it's gatekeeping by their choice. Is that the good way to go, or a bad way to go, or is that just basically trying to stave off the inevitable? That's a fair question, and there's no easy answer to that. Any AI art, back to Jolly Green Comics, any AI art used either for books or ads should be properly identified. There's that labeling point again. Okay, so there's a lot there. Moving on to somebody named, I'm going to struggle to pronounce this, Isa Joha 9962. Okay. At the end, it's up. At the end, it is up to the product and any media to deliver AI or human or combo of those two. A boring comic is still a boring comic no matter what. When AI has been fully integrated, people will not care about the process of making music, comics, movies, etc. Just the result. And AI does not have regret or shame, but humans have that and is a strength to be used when being creative. So there's a little bit of a mix of ideas there. On the one hand, taking it from a consumerist product point of view, it, the common comic reader does not probably would not know or be able to identify when AI art or writing is being used. All they know is that the product is either good or bad. So then you take it from the publisher's point of view. If the customer doesn't care and they're willing to pay for it, then what's the holdup? What's the problem? I'm not answering that question. I'm asking that question because that's one that we probably have to consider is when you're mass producing comics, you want them to be bought by as many people as possible. And the people who are buying it don't care if it's AI or not. Is there really a problem? It, is it a problem for the artists and their artistic integrity, which is fine, but that's where we get into the line between the artistic integrity and the efforts of the creators involved and the need to basically sell product that appeals to the widest range of people possible. There's that blurry line there, which is more important. And if you don't use AI because the artistic integrity matters most, but you wind up creating something that nobody wants and you spend all this money to create something that nobody wants, did you really accomplish anything? Are you really getting better? Is that really the point? And so now we're in that sort of capitalist consumerist mindset of the companies still have to make money to survive. So how far do they go, and where is that line between doing what's cheap but effective versus doing what's artistically maintaining artistic integrity might be the way to look at it. Okay, and then we have another comment from JK6919. I think the market will decide, which is normally almost always true. While I understand creators want to decide AI rules, the reality is the industry has lost market share and lost power as a result. That is also true when we're talking about Western periodical comics. There you go, Heidi McDonald. If people using AI create a product consumers want, the method will gain market share. If customers reject AI, it will fade out. Also true. If the collective comic reading audience says we don't want AI and they're not going to pay for it, yeah, then they will fall out of favor. Truly, if I had a choice between Leah Williams' Power Girl, which was awful, or Welcome to Smallville, also awful, and an enjoyable story with pleasant art by AI, I'd pay my computer overload. Well, I mean, it's a funny way to put it, but that's true as well. As far as DC pulling covers based on an accusation, I'm sorry, but that's just wrong. It was an accusation, not proven. And I know this won't be popular to say. Part of why the artist is targeted is because he was Chinese. It doesn't have the network of defenders other than US based artists have. I don't know if that's true. I mean, he is Chinese, but I don't know if it's true that him being Chinese, which may mean he's a remote worker and not within the clique or network of approved artists, is that a factor? I don't know. But that's the problem with witch hunts. Is sometimes other factors are into play, and sometimes those factors are secret or being obscured because in favor of some sort of moralistic bent, and that's always something to take into account. It was relatively easy for Sanctimonious creators to target him as he was not in a position of power. That I don't know if that's true, but I can understand that angle. And if there is truth to that angle, that also presents a problem as well. So there you go. There are just these aren't all the comments. This isn't every reaction I've gotten on this topic, but it is. But these are some good ones, and they give you that wide swath of mindsets from readers across the board. AI should be labeled or marked. I think that comment came through several times. There is a lack of clarity about taking jobs away versus doing work that is profitable and effective, and finding the line between the morality of taking jobs away or the morality of taking what it has almost historically always been considered a human endeavor, which is creating art, and then having a machine do that. And where does that integrity come into the question of capitalism and the idea that the publishers have to run a business and they have to make money, and that solely depends on being able to create something that people want. And if the current pool of creators can't do that, and AI can, then where is the line of obligation? I'm asking the question. I'm not answering the question because these are the things we have to think about as we move forward. So this was great. You guys did a great job. I was looking for feedback and you gave it to me, which is fantastic. So things to think about. We might do some follow-ups on this depending on where the future holds and what new developments come into play. I strongly suspect that there are some new developments coming up, and I've seen some previews of AI that does video. And so, where does that come in when it comes to things like the MCU and James Gunn's reboot of the DC cinematic universe and all those things? And will AI come into a play there? I don't know. But thank you very much for your input and your feedback. And I hope this conversation can continue. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment down below. Or if you're listening to this on your podcast player of choice, please leave a comment and a rating as well. Make sure you subscribe, follow us along. And we're going to take a break right here at this moment to switch over back to the newsletter to talk about our pick of the week and reviews from last week and what's coming up this week. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the rest of the newsletter. Before we get started, I got some questions last week about our YouTube reviews, and the questions were along the lines of, who is that strange man's voice and why are the reviews so short? Well, just to be honest and upfront with you, I had some voice problems, and I said, "Hey, let's get a VO person in here to kind of we'll script it out and read it." And I just find that scripting seems to somehow go shorter, and the voice wasn't recognizable, and just turned into a thing. It was good to get the reviews out, but at the same time, not the best reviews we've ever done. And it's a learning experience, and I'm happy with that because we find out what appeals to people and what doesn't. But as you can hear from my voice, although it's not the most soothing voice in the world, we're back to normal starting this week, and we'll be back on track with the reviews as we've been doing them with some tweaks. And we're looking at some ways to make the format of the reviews a little bit more enticing and engaging and what have you. So let's move back into the newsletter and talk about our pick of the week. As you can see from the screen, and if you are a subscriber to our Substack newsletter, you already got the notification this past Saturday because we send the pick of the week out as a podcast version on Saturdays at noon. It is The Savage Sword of Conan #2 from Titan Comics. The big main story from Jim Zub was thumbs up. It was fantastic stuff. Lots of layers, lots of nuance. It's action and monsters and thought-provoking ideas about what Conan sometimes has to endure, especially when families and children are involved, and it was a big deal type of story. The art, not the best, but it was okay. And then you had the backup short story from Patch Zurcher on the part 2 of his Solomon Kane story, which is a classic Solomon Kane monster hunt story, and it was chef's kiss, beautiful, love it. So we'll go through if you're a subscriber to the newsletter. I know that sounded like a jumbled mess. All the reviews in there from last week. It was a shorter week because it was an annuals week. But again, our pick of the week is Savage Sword of Conan #2. Were there any surprises in here? No, not really. Space Ghost. We did review Space Ghost #1 from Dynamite Comics. And I have to say, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Now, it helps if you're familiar with Space Ghost. So if you have some of that background, you don't need to know the piece parts, but all the references you'll get the characters and who they are, and oh, I know that guy and I know this guy. So if you have no background in Space Ghost, you might say, oh, this seems like it's supposed to be a big deal for some reason that I don't quite understand. So you have that little bit of a gap there. But otherwise, I was thoroughly pleased with issue #1. I actually liked Space Ghost #1 from Dynamite better than when they released Thundercats #1. I thought this was better. Your mileage may vary, so we'll see how that goes. And then, okay, so let's talk about this week. And this is a huge week for Image. Lots of big stuff, lots of stuff just in volume and in terms of quality is coming out this week from Image. But let's talk about the rest of the list. We have Here Comes Comical #8 from Sigma Comics. I believe that's the finale of the series. And then Gridley #1 also is indie submission. We have Zorro Man of the Dead #4 from Massive. I believe that also is the finale for that 4-part miniseries. And Washed in the Blood #2. We didn't read issue #1. We're going to go back and read that because they supplied that to us. And then we're going to pick up the series from where we left off. We have Morning Star #2 from Mad Cave and The Devil That Wears My Face #6 also from Mad Cave. The next two are maybes. We have Faith Returns #1 and Valiant #1, both from Valiant and Alien Books. We've reached out to them to provide us those review copies. Their responsiveness, just being honest, has been a little spotty. I mean, a lot spotty. So we may get those, we may not. We'll see. We're gonna put it on the schedule to. Fingers crossed we're gonna get it, but we'll see what happens. We have Horror and Fantasy Illustrated Plum Island from Zenescope. Red Sonja, Empire of the Damned, #2 from Dynamite. And here we go, the big image list. Energon Universe 2024 Special #1. That is their print edition for the Free Comic Book Day. As I'm recording this, it is Saturday, May 4th, so this is Free Comic Book Day. If they have it in the stores, we'll pick it up. If not, we'll get it from from our media contacts. We have Geiger #2 and Geiger #2 from Image Comics. That is part of the Jeff Johns Ghost Machine imprint. We have Transformers #8 from Image and Skybound. Then we have Gunslinger Spawn #31, The Scorched #29, Ain't No Grave, which is a new series, new miniseries, and The Sacrifices #8, and that's the Rick Remender fantasy series. Lots of books from Image. Some of these are really heavy hitters, and we're looking forward to seeing what Image provides for us this week. That's our newsletter. Thank you very much for joining. I hope this has been informative. I want to hear your thoughts. Even though the first video from last week is done, add your comments. I still want to hear your input, and I want to hear your ideas and your thoughts and your hopes and your fears about artificial intelligence and what it means for the comics industry going forward. Your input is what matters, because your input drives what's going to happen in the industry going forward, both as a creator and potentially as a customer as well. Your voice matters. So leave a comment down below. Otherwise, I'm Gabe Hernandez, your publishing EIC for Comical Opinions. Thank you very much for joining. If you haven't, like, share, comment, subscribe, and you have a great day.